Okay, to finish up the chapter, we're going to be looking at some other important events and documents that were written in terms of Catholic social doctrine. So we finished up all those key social encyclicals. Another important event that happened, this was actually a series of documents that made up this called the Second Vatican Council. It was during the 1960s, so 1962 to 1965, this council was happening, a very important and significant council. And within this council, social doctrine came to the forefront in many of its documents. And the most comprehensive statement of social concern was the Pastoral Constitution on the Church in the Modern World. So in Latin, it can be translated to joy and hope. So that was the most comprehensive statement of social doctrine within the Second Vatican Council. Okay, Second Vatican Council continued. It called on Catholics to read the signs of the times in light of the gospel. So during the 1960s, continuing to have rapid technology growth and social changes, there was an increased sense of atheism, more and more people leaving the church, having no sense of who God is in their lives, encounters with him. There was a lot of people who claimed to be atheists. And then it increased in that. And there was enhanced health and culture, and then there was a breakdown we saw of the family and community life. So called on Catholics to read the sign of the times in light of the gospel. That was the Second Vatican Council. And this document offers a coherent framework for understanding freedom, justice, and peace. And it also presented ways to respect human dignity. Some common concerns. There are several subjects that are consistently discussed in papal documents. Always need to be discussed and kind of brought into light with more clarity, especially as times change. And they need to be spoken to people so that they can understand it in the times. So moral law is always necessary. It provides the foundation for all social teaching, and it accounts for man's duties and consequent rights. And the second thing that always is being talked about in papal documents on social doctrine is God is the source of all civil authority. Man cannot proclaim authority upon himself as much as man tries to do that. Authority always flows from God to all just governments and laws. We know this as Catholic Christians. So continued common concerns that is always talked about in Catholic social doctrine is man is not only perfected by private goods such as food and shelter, but by common goods such as peace and truth come about through life with others in community. We need those things. The promotion of the fundamental rights of the person, prosperity or the development of the spiritual and temporal goods of society, and the peace and security of its members. So these are all continued common concerns that we always address in Catholic social doctrine. Efforts of the Church of the U.S. This is the U.S. church hierarchy. So in the early 20th century, Catholics put social doctrine to work in daily life. And in 1917, U.S. bishops established the National Catholic War Council, and it dealt with all these certain activities that were related to World War I. And after the war ended, it became the National Catholic Welfare Council, the NCWC. And this promoted the interests of Catholics in education, legislation, social action, lay initiatives, and press and publicity, as well as aiding immigrants in their new lives. And the NCWC changed its name again before becoming the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, the USCCB. So that should be a name that should be kind of familiar because we use it all the time, especially when we find our daily readings, when we were reading about how to be faithful citizens and to vote in the viewpoints of our faith. When I asked you guys to read that document way back in October, that was from the USCCB. That continues its work today. So many sources you can find on the USCCB. So to conclude, since Rerum Novarum, that very important document, the Church has addressed the social question with increasing clarity, frequency, and volume. And one of the fruits of that is the Catechism of the Catholic Church. So you guys have probably heard of that, especially growing up in Catholic school. And that what it is, it was only published in the 90s, 1993, so it's fairly new. And it brought together all these teachings in a very abbreviated and orderly way. So that's a tremendous source, if not one of the best sources, along with the Bible, to find out what we believe as Catholic Christians. You can find so many answers to so many questions in the Catechism of the Catholic Church. And then the Compendium of the Catholic Social Doctrine of the Church, that was published in 2004, and it is a more complete account of the Church's teachings. So those are some sources that you can find. And something to keep in mind, especially tomorrow, Tuesday, when I ask you guys to complete an assignment in which you will come up with 5 different sources that you will have on your shelf, have to look to. So I'll explain that in more detail for your assignment tomorrow. But you'll be looking up 5 sources that you will be looking up and just describing in detail of that you could just have handy. If you ever have any questions, like I said, in Scripture it says, always be ready to give reason for why you have the faith. And faith is way more than just knowledge about the faith. It is so much more than that. It's about an encounter. But knowledge about the faith is important, and it can increase our love for our faith too. So, like I said, if you ever have any questions, please email me or message me, and take some time to pause and make sure you get all these notes so that you can be ready for your test this week.